your screen, if you could just give me your full name and um, let me know who it is you're representing here today, whether you're the applicant, the owner, a property owner, a neighboring property owner, or some other party. So I'll start with someone who I have listed as Johnny the Pig, and you'll have to unmute, sir. Okay, while he's working on that, we'll go to Daniel Perrin.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay.
Could you tell me your name and who you're representing here today?
I'm John Cody. I'm the owner of the pub.
Okay, great. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
All right. Daniel Perrin.
Hey, good morning. My name is Daniel Perrin. I'm the current resident of 4206 Cavour Street, the neighboring property.
Okay. Is that directly adjacent or just like nearby?
Nearby, we
Okay.
share Cavour Street.
Okay, got it. All right, great. Welcome. We have Wes Menzel from the planning department here. Welcome, Wes.
Morning.
We also have, it looks like Rick Peskovitz. Rick, if you could unmute for me.
Hi, Rick Peskovitz here. I own several properties in the area, including one directly behind the pub.
Okay, great. Welcome. And then there's someone else here under May R. May R, if you're here, if you could unmute. Okay. May R. All right. They may just be observing today, which is fine. So I'm going to go ahead and unless Mr. Cody, are you expecting anyone else to join us on the applicant owner side here today?
No.
Okay, great. I need to read through a hearing script. This will just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll get started. So again, my name is David Sturkey. I'm the zoning hearing examiner for the city. I'll be presiding over the hearing today. Case before us today is case number ZH20240131. That's 3265 Brotherton Road. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any other parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any other party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent, in our case today, that's Mr. Cody, will first present his case. Mr. Cody, typically this consists of some background on the project, what exactly it is you're proposing, the zoning relief that you're requesting that I approve, and of course, why you think I should approve it or why it's appropriate. I'll then move to the public who will have an opportunity to speak after the applicant has presented his case. I'll hear from the zoning department if Mr. Zell would like to add any testimony in addition to his staff report. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to that testimony that's offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I'll close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties with the Zoom technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those issues on the fly, but to the extent there's a defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, the last thing I need to do is just swear in all of our witnesses. So it looks like May R has unmuted. May R, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, could you give me your full name and who you're representing here today?
May Robinson. I'm a property owner of 3255 Brotherton Road.
Okay.
Representing myself.
Okay, great. Thanks, May. May, do you intend on providing any testimony here today?
I guess so. Yes, but my
Okay.
letters I sent, well, I sent you a couple letters, so that's what I have to say.
Okay. All right, great. Well, if you do want to testify, I'll need you to activate your camera. You don't have to decide right now. I
I
can
just
swear you
don't
in
know how to
later.
do all this. I just don't know how to do all this stuff. Okay.
Sure. So I'm going to send you a prompt to start your video. I don't know if you're on your phone or your computer, but it's usually towards the bottom of the application. There's an audio and a video button.
Start my video.
There we go. Looks like it's
There
starting.
we
Okay,
go.
great. Hi, Ms. Robinson. Okay, so anyone who intends on providing testimony here today, if you could please make sure that you are off mute. I'll need you to, the zoning code requires that I swear you in, so I'm going to do that now collectively with all of our guests here. So if you could raise your right hand, I'll need you to answer out loud. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes, I do.
I do.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. All right, Mr. Cody, are you ready to tell me about this project?
I can tell you what. Yes.
Okay, floor is yours.
Well, there's no new construction. There's nothing beyond what we already have. So we just have the canopy and some outdoor seating.
Okay.
Nothing more.
Okay, so I have that you're applying for several different types of zoning relief related to an outdoor area that's located within 100 feet of a residential district that exceeds 50% of the indoor area. And let's see, for hours of operation of this outdoor area to include hours until 2:30 a.m. 7 days a week. And then also an exception from buffer yard requirements that are requirements that you have particular buffers, screening, fencing, landscaping between that outdoor area and adjacent properties. So could you tell me more about that? Are you telling me that you already have that outdoor area in place?
Yes.
Okay. And it sounds like, and maybe Wes can help a little bit here from
Yeah.
the planning
Yeah.
department.
Yeah.
It sounds
Wes,
like it was never permitted for that outdoor space. Is that right?
Wes understands this better than I do.
Okay, Wes, do you mind jumping in and telling us, just do some table setting here for us? Why are we here today?
Sure. So during the early part of the pandemic, the applicant submitted and received permission for the outdoor space based on the pandemic rules that the city had adopted for outdoor dining. So they were very, very lax or whatever. So then that time period ended, and then the outdoor use continued, and then he was cited for outdoor dining space, without a permit. So that eventually led him to apply for the relief as outlined for the outdoor space, and the hours and such as outlined.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Wes. I appreciate that. So yeah, sounds like Mr. Cody, you're here now for a permanent approval of what was provisionally approved during the pandemic.
Yes.
Can you tell me why you think that's appropriate and why I should approve that permanent permitting?
Well, I think outdoor seating is important for reducing respiratory infections, and it was recommended by John Cranley that we should maintain as much outdoor seating as possible. And what else can I say? We tried to keep. I'm just restoring the building. The building was built in 1911, so I consider it to be historical. And I'm doing what I can to preserve it and restore it. And the outdoor seating goes well with a pub.
Okay. So I'm going to give the public an opportunity to weigh in here in a minute, and I certainly don't want to speak for them, but I have received a fair amount of written correspondence from neighboring property owners, and it seems that one of the primary concerns of the neighboring property owners with this application are adverse noise, sonic impacts, among other things. So can you tell me why you don't think that is a concern, or any steps to mitigate those adverse impacts?
We keep it quiet outside. I try to keep it as quiet as we can. We just have a small TV on the under the canopy, but it doesn't make a lot of noise.
Okay.
And I don't have any outdoor music.
Okay.
And people have to go outside to smoke cigarettes.
Okay.
And I do my best to be a good neighbor.
Okay. So just
I was-
based on the one TV and your employees, I assume individual attempts to keep noise down.
Yes.
Those are the efforts that will
Sure.
be made. Okay. I mean, I've been to a couple bars in my day, sometimes even as late as 2:30, and that can be a tall order sometimes to keep people that are um, consuming intoxicating beverages to a moderate level of noise. Do you understand any of the concerns or why some neighboring property owners might not have faith in your ability to adequately mitigate those sonic impacts?
Well, we are a good distance from the houses, further than the other bars in the neighborhood. We've addressed buffering with Wes, and my architecture lady's not here at the meeting, so I respect the neighbors and I try to keep noise down as much as possible. We're not going to introduce loud music or anything.
Okay.
Of course, you can't help people going outside and smoking a cigarette and laughing and so on.
Sure. Okay. Anything else you'd like to tell me before I turn it over to the public to make some comments?
Not right away.
Okay.
I was told by the zoning department that it was a good idea to go have a conversation with the neighbors before the hearing to resolve any issues that they might have and discuss any issues they might have. And unfortunately, I didn't get a list of people who might be at the hearing until yesterday, and I didn't have their phone numbers or email addresses. So I went to Daniel's house. I think it was Daniel on Cavour.
Okay.
Is that right, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm the isolated house on Cavour Street.
Yeah, I went to your house, and but no one seemed to be home. So
Okay.
I'd be happy to meet with you and have a conversation about any issues you might have. But my plan is to just carry on making improvements to the property.
Okay. And Mr. Cody, one more question before I move to the public. So during this provisional allowance for the patio, has the patio been accessible until 2:30, 7 days a week?
Well, there's an exit from the bar. To go from the bar to outside, there's an exit door, and I can't close the exit door.
So have patrons been able to access and to congregate on the patio until 2:30 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
But-
So that
but the-
just again, I'm just that's an existing condition under that provisional approval.
Yes, and as
Make
I
sure
was
that's good.
explaining, that's an exit from the bar, so I'm not able to lock the exit.
Okay, got it. All right. Anything else, Mr. Cody, before we hear from the neighboring property owners?
No,
Okay, great. Thanks for your testimony.
only
I think-
it is a very old establishment. It's been a public house since 1911. This is not a new business.
Gotcha. But the patio portion that we're here for today is
Yeah.
relatively new, correct?
The patio is about 5 years old. I went down to get a permit for the patio, and I was told I didn't need one because it was just a slab on ground. There was no deck.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Mr. Cody. I'm going to move on to Mr. Perrin. Mr. Perrin, if you're ready, if you'd like to add anything here.
Yeah, I just wrote a couple words here, but I've been a 12-year proprietor of the property adjacent to the Flying Pig. So I just want to kind of go ahead and formally request the examiner to reject these petitions and request for zoning exemption for the subject property. When we look at determining whether the work is of a public interest, naturally you listed, or in accordance to Chapter 1445.13 of the general standards, there's several factors to take into account. So I went ahead and just kind of outlined probably a couple in particular that you would want to be aware of to make a final decision. Naturally, the first of the zoning, so the 100 feet of zoning, I guess, forgiveness between a neighboring RX mixed use property zone and a commercial. The current patio, looking at like a Google Map scenario, puts it about 60 feet from the adjacent property lines. So obviously that is already very close to both the rear property owners, one being represented today, and then I believe you received some others. In terms of like some guidelines, the subject property obviously has a history of not following the parameters and guidelines that's set by this committee. There's several code enforcement records out there that remain open and following investigation dating all the way back to 2021. Bill Hearn, it looks like, was the assigned city inspector and recently cited the subject property on, it looks like, August 7th, the third civil offense for not following the ordinances that he outlined. From a traffic perspective, the subject property is located on the corner of a 5-way intersection with multiple blind corners and no public lighting. There have been multiple vehicle accidents that have occurred in this proximity. And the cross streets of Cavour and Bach are widely utilized for pedestrians with dogs and families. There have been several accounts of patrons driving impaired. Actually, back in 2020, there was an OVI pedestrian fatality that took place beside the Flying Pig on Cavour Street. From a buffering perspective, the subject property is already in violation of the buffering requirements. And it's the negligence and disrespect of the patrons that oftentimes is the concern. So, there's frequent occurrences in events of public urination and vomiting, drinking, littering, fighting, yelling, alarms going off, horns honking, you name it. Traditional, what happens in a drinking hole until 2:30 in the morning. The hours of operation obviously is pretty liberal. That's 7 days a week, all the way to 2:30 a.m. And naturally, being surrounded by working professionals and families, it's an impact that disturbs the well-being on frequent occurrence. From a compatibility standpoint, it is an older building, just like the rest of ours that neighbor it. And it is, from an aesthetic standpoint, the patio today does not follow with any of the, I would say, urban local aesthetics. And then, there's a lot of furniture that's in disrepair and in poor condition that's piled up in corners and on different parts of the neighboring property that he owns as well. From obviously adverse effects, the location and the subject location, there's limiting on-street and off-street parking. And again, with no public lighting. So again, just increasing the square footage would obviously exacerbate that existing issue today. And then just back this past month in October, from a public benefit standpoint, there's been 2 public safety concerns involving endangerment to women, where our neighbors officially called local police department to intervene. So between the drunk driving and some suspicious activity, obviously there's a growing safety and security concern for our neighbors and my family as well. So I just want to state that I earnestly support the local business, trade, and community and residents with the intention of really becoming a generational resident family of Oakley. Really, the only beneficiary of approving this would be the sole private owner, and at the expense of the neighboring public interests. So it'd be a great service to hold the property accountable for existing code of compliance and denying the permit extension.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Perrin. Appreciate your thoughtful testimony there. I have a question for you. And I'll probably ask this as a heads up to the other two neighboring property owners, but are you opposed to any outdoor area for this bar with any sort of restrictions, or is this something where under the right conditions, an outdoor space of some sort you think would be appropriate or acceptable?
I can't speak for others, so
yeah, I'm just asking you right now.
Yeah, my personal opinion is I'm not against an outdoor space under the right conditions and operating hours. Again, it's been an establishment that has been there since I've moved in, and the current owner bought it. So again, not against it during the afternoon. It's more later in the night, and just Monday through Sunday all the way to 2:30 every single day that the bar is open. So that's where oftentimes the altercations take place, is usually in the later hours, or I guess earlier hours in that context.
Got it. Okay. Thanks again, Mr. Perrin. I appreciate your time and your testimony here today. Moving along, we're going to go to Mr. Peskovitz, and then Ms. Robinson, you'll be next.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to speak. John, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good. John, I've known each other for years, and I kind of wish that he would have come, and he knows me and my contact information, because it does help in advance to discuss plans when you're doing these things.
Yes.
I own the house directly behind the pig,
yes,
as well as 6 or 7 houses on Bach and 6 or 7 houses on Brotherton on both sides of the street.
Yes, I've met your daughter. She sometimes comes to the pub.
Yes, and she enjoys it. It's a fun place, and I agree with that, and I like that you're bringing business to the area. That being said, I personally have witnessed the trash, the vomit, and I've gotten phone calls on how to handle situations when my daughter can't get into her driveway, which has happened at least 3 times from people parking and leaving the cars overnight. Now, I'm not saying that's John's fault, but the more people that are at this bar, the more apt something like that is to happen. I am not at all opposed to some outdoor type of patio. I do disagree. I've done a little bit of building. In fact, I'm building 2 new houses on Bach that are very close to abutting the back of the pig, and they're going to hopefully sell for $750 plus. So I think that would be a detrimental thing to the property value to have a lot of people outside, certainly till all hours of the night. But I think that if it did need a permit, is what I'm getting at. And if done correctly, I think that it could be something that I'm not 100% against, because I think it's good to have people if they want to be outside in the nice weather. But the problem is the size of the area. And I mean, my other suggestion is, I know that John owns the house on the next house over that abuts the outdoor area. Perhaps if he builds something onto the bar or to the building that has, so the open area could be the front that faces Brotherton Road. That would be more acceptable, because that's a business, it's zone business out that way as opposed to the back. I'd be for something like that, but I'm concerned with what I've seen already over the last few years. And like I say, there's already 8 new houses on Bach right behind it that are selling for 600 to 850 grand. I'm building 4 more or 3 more, and I own properties on Brotherton. My idea was frankly I own from Oakley Roofing all the way down to the dry cleaners or the laundromat. And then I own the other side of the laundromat. And I think Ms. Robinson owns the house next to John. That whole zoning calls for any new construction to be built up to the roadway. And, you know, I'm all for trying to get us 3 owners together, which is a lot of property, and try to even build something and not eliminate this bar, but make it a nicer place, larger perhaps, that would accommodate people. And I think that's all for me.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Peskowitz. I appreciate your testimony and being here today. I'm just going to pause briefly. We did have someone join midway through under a Motorola Moto G. Are you with us? If so, if you could unmute briefly, if you'd like to participate at all. Give it another few seconds. Okay, may just be observing as well. All right, Ms. Robinson, we'll move on to you. Would you like to add anything?
Yes, I would like to add, don't have any problems with outside of bar area, but hours of 2:30 are quite long. My other one problem is there is no buffer on the west side at all. There's a little dinky fence on the front. I believe a buffer needs to be built between the White House, which belongs to Mr. Cody, and my property at 3255, just as well as that buffer, supposedly buffer fence, I believe on the south side. I believe that needs to be built. And my other question was, is this going to include in front of the White House, or is it just closer to the bar? Or the
It's just
outdoor area,
closest to the bar.
not in front of the White House?
No.
Okay. Okay. That's my thing. But again, I have to deal with beer bottles and trash and cigarette butts in my yard often. And I know it's not your fault, Mr. Cody, but it's not pleasant. And again, have had a driveway blocked too, which is not your fault, but something needs to be monitored more than it is. So it is a residential area, maybe not all the places, but I think there needs just to be some more things taken care of that are.
Okay.
And I do agree with Mr. Daniel, I don't remember his last name, about, you know, it could be a little nicer looking part of the outside to fit in with the Oakley area too. I know you've
Right.
painted and all that, but some of that furniture is kind of trashy and things in the corner, but yes. That's about all I have to say, but my main thing is about a buffer fence for between my property as well.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Robinson, for your time, your testimony here today. Appreciate you being here. But typically I would go next to Wes, but I'm gonna ask Mr. Cody a question before we do that. Mr. Cody, it sounds like you've now had an opportunity to hear from some of the neighbors about their concerns. Would you like, I mean, this is something I've done in the past. It's fairly routine. Since you've had the chance to hear some of their concerns, would you like a chance to pull back and pause this process so that you can try to respond to some of those concerns and come back with a different request or an updated proposal that tries to address some of these concerns before I make a final decision on the application?
I would be happy to meet with these people and just discuss their concerns. The property's been there as a commercial public house since 1911.
Yep.
So and there was outdoor seating when I bought the property. It was on Cavour, and I've moved it off of Cavour. I've moved it around the corner, and and I do my best to keep it clean.
Well, let me ask you this: Are you
I've been
proposing any sort of buffering via landscaping or fencing or anything like that around?
yes, I've been wanting to make more improvements, but restraining myself because I've got to resolve the zoning and building permit issues.
So
And
I guess
and
just to back up real quick, Mr. Cody, I guess what I'm saying is, if that were part of this package, I would assume that it would look more favorable to some of these neighbors. Again, I'm not speaking for them, but I guess my question is, would you like to put together a package or a proposal based on some of the concerns you've heard to mitigate some of those issues? And if
I think
so, we
so.
can continue this, give you some time to do that, and then come back before I make an official decision. We don't have
Okay.
to. That the ball's in your court, so to speak, on that. If you want to just proceed as is with the plans that we have and have me make a decision, I'm happy to do that. But it sounds like everyone may benefit from you trying to respond to some of these concerns before I make a decision. Would you
Yes.
like to take advantage of that?
Yes. And
Okay.
I'd also like to, if I can, I'd like to meet with the people at this meeting individually, one at a time, and discuss the concerns.
I think if you all are able to do that, that's fantastic. Of course, I can't force anyone to meet with anybody else, but it sounds like some folks might be willing to do that. So that will be up to you, and I would encourage folks to do that if you're able and you're willing. But let's go ahead then and put a pause on this. So this will be officially continued. Mr. Cody, we'll need you to reach out to my office or to Wes Menzel. Wes, do you have something you want to add?
Well, I was just wondering if I could provide a little more information or clarification on a couple things, or
Sure. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So Mr. Cody mentioned something about the concrete and lack of needing a permit for that. That's true. You don't need a permit for concrete per se, as far as a building permit, but it's the use of the concrete that would require the permitting review. And I guess I'd also just add that our zoning recommendations were based on the fact that there's no complaints in the system as far as the building department and database of complaints for about this outdoor space. So that's why we came up with our recommendations. So I think that given the new information about the neighbors are providing, we probably come up with land on a different recommendation of sorts. I don't know exactly how, but just
Okay.
letting you know that the additional information would cause a more scrupulous review of the proposal and the size and the hours, I think would probably change.
Well, I'd be happy to come down to see you again.
Well, I think what Mr. Stuckey's suggesting is good to meet, but we've had a real problem getting accurate information in the application itself and any drawings and permitting. So, like, there needs to be some responsibility taken by what you're putting on paper, so we can review it. Not it has to be more than just coming down to talk to me.
Well,
yeah, thanks.
Yeah, sorry, and I appreciate that, Wes. Thanks for adding that. I think that's important. So it sounds like Mr. Cody's willing to put a little bit more work into this and come up with a proposal that I think again responds to some of the concerns that he's heard. So, Mr. Cody, how this works technically is that this will just be sort of paused and continued and held until you've had an opportunity, if you'd like, to make any changes to the proposal. As soon as you feel like you are ready to come back in front of me and to continue this hearing, you'll just need to contact our office or contact Wes's office and let us know that you're ready to put it back on the docket.
Okay.
I will then re-notify everybody who is in the hearing here today. You'll, if you received a Zoom invite link, you'll receive another one as soon as this hearing is rescheduled, and hopefully you'll have a better idea of what you're going to hear if you've been able to have conversations with Mr. Cody in the meantime. So does anyone have any questions about the process at all?
Can I step up for a second?
Sure.
I think this is a wonderful idea. John, I look forward to chatting with you.
You too.
I think that one thing I would like to clarify on my own is, what are the current, let's just say that he's allowed to have outside. What are the current hours that are permitted by the current zone?
Yeah, Wes, do you have that handy?
If there was an outdoor space, approved conditionally, the hours that are allowed without any additional special permission from Mr. Sturkey would be until 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday nights and until midnight Friday and Saturday nights.
My suggestion would be that, unless I'm speaking out of turn, I can't imagine any reason to extend those hours from what they are already. And it may make things easier down the road when we discuss, the size and the layout of the outdoor space. That's my suggestion.
Sure. Well, yeah, understood. And I think that's, if you do have a conversation, sounds like you will have a conversation with Mr. Cody. Maybe you all can discuss that. And then again, Mr. Cody, it's up to you. If you want to come back and still ask for 2:30, you can, of course, and then I'll have to make a decision on that. Or that's something, if you want to change, you could ask for something different, or not ask for anything beyond what the prescribed hours are. So those are all things that I hope that Mr. Cody, you can consider and have conversations about. And when we come back, we can talk more about.
Okay.
Hey, David, I guess my last question for you is from a timeline standpoint and what's existing there today. What will we be looking at? Obviously, the outdoor space is, as John mentioned, an exit, so we can't lock people in there. So we're still having this, I guess, ongoing perpetual effect. Is there any sort of timeline or establish on your guys' end that you could provide some insights for?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a really good point. Mr. Cody, how much time do you think you'll need to have these conversations and to take a look at your proposal?
No, I'm not sure. I don't know how to answer that.
Okay.
I don't think it'll take too much time.
Okay. So if we were to put this back on the docket for 2 weeks, do you think that would be an appropriate amount of time? Or
I'm not sure. I guess it depends on how it goes when I have a conversation with the neighbors. When I talk to the people at this meeting, how much time will it require, and will I need legal assistance? I don't know.
right. Okay. Well, I think I am going to have to put a time limit on this.
Yes.
Simply due to the fact that it's already operational and it's in violation of the code. It's operating in violation of the code. And so, unless you're willing to shut it down completely until the next hearing.
I can't shut it down.
The outdoor area?
Yeah, because it's an exit. It's a fire exit.
Wes,
I'm not familiar with the building code, but I think there may be a distinction between having the door closed versus the door locked. I don't know for sure, but
you can still allow it to be an exit in an emergency, but you don't have to let people congregate in the outdoor area.
Well, I could tell them not to, but I don't know how I stop them.
Well, I think having a TV out there probably induces them to think it's okay to be out there as well.
Yeah, I could turn off the TV.
No, I mean, you could just not permit anyone. Do you permit people to go behind your bar?
Behind the bar?
Go and pour themselves drinks. I mean, you're allowed to enforce where people can go inside your own establishment, is my point. And
yeah, but
let's maybe, I think we might be getting a little off track here. I'm going to suggest that we come back on the 20th.
Okay.
November 20th. That's exactly 2 weeks. Okay.
All right.
And hopefully we'll give you time to talk to some of the neighbors and think about this. I do want to keep a tight timeline on it though, because of the fact that it's out of compliance currently. Of course, if you want to contact an attorney and get legal help with this, that's you're perfectly allowed to do that. And that's someone that I can talk to as well if you do end up going that route. But let's come back here at 10 o'clock on the 20th. Does anyone here, does that definitely not work for anyone here? It's just since we have everyone present.
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Okay.
Works for me.
Okay. Mr. Perrin? Okay,
Yep, works.
great. All right, so I will send out a new Zoom invite for that day. And we will all come back here. Mr. Cody, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or to Wes in terms of getting getting this back on and responding and updating your application.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think that's it. Same goes for the rest of the public. I can't take testimony while this is continued. So, if you want to call and tell me about more issues or more problems or more suggestions, I would ask you to just hold those type of questions and that type of conversation until we get back into the public hearing. But if you have strictly procedural questions, I'm happy to answer any of those in the meantime. So we will be back here November 20th at 10 a.m. I want to thank everyone again for their time, their testimony here today. Have a wonderful day. We are continued and adjourned for the day.
Is it possible to get a video copy of this meeting or audio or a transcript?
There is, yeah. I can send that to you.
You can send that to me. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Okay, great.
Thank you, David.